You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 31. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Beyond the High Road, a podcast dedicated to healing your heart and life following the grief of alienation. I'm your host, Shelby Milford, a twice certified life coach specializing in post-traumatic growth. If you're experiencing the effects of alienation and you're ready to heal, then this show is my love letter to you. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, I gotta tell you, I am a little bit of a battered wreck. I just came back from putting my sweet pepper down. The appointment was at 3:00. I decided really last minute. I decided, I was just wanting to wait to see if she would pull out of it. Just like 4 days ago, Pepper was trotting down the road. She seemed like she was on the upswing, like she was healing, she was eating, she had some energy. I mean, she was still kind of staggering. She didn't have a lot of muscular control, but she was trotting down the road straight and narrow 4 or 5 days ago. And then she wasn't. Long story short, I stayed up most of the weekend with her, trying to get her back to health. And then again last night. And so around noon today, I made the decision and now I'm back home pepperless. My sweet peeper pepper is, what do they say, over Rainbow Bridge? Yeah. So it's tough. I think if you're a pet parent, then you know how much your animals can mean to you. And if you're not, I just want to let you know that I am in no way comparing your child and the grief you feel to my dog and the grief I'm feeling from that. Okay. But maybe what I'm getting ready to say will help you to understand. And I think I've kind of explained it a couple weeks ago that Pepper, I got her when I was fully pregnant. I had my daughter 3 weeks after I got Pepper, Chili and Pepper. So Pepper had gone through it all with me. And so for that reason, it's so difficult because, they just become part of your life, 16 years, So, crazy enough that she passed away almost 4 years to the day from when Chili passed away. Actually, it was a couple weeks apart. But anyway, pets, as you guys know, when we're going through the grief of alienation, the grief of losing this massive amount of time with our children, if you already are a pet owner, pet parent, you know how much support, how much comfort, how much unconditional love that they offer. And for us as alienated parents, that is so important because that is the one thing that we feel that we've lost is the unconditional love, right? Of our own child and possibly the partner, and not that you ever had it, but the stability that a pet brings can very much help to, I don't want to say replace, but comfort in the loss of the stability you may or may not have had in your family life with your child's other parent. It's definitely the stability that we've always craved. Yeah. Knowing that they're there for you. Your pets are at home when you get home, and they will offer you the wagging tails and cute little faces whenever you walk in the door. And there's no conditions. There's no anything. So Pepper, through the hardest times of the alienation, the hardest times of my life, she was there. And it's difficult to say goodbye. It's really difficult. So on that note, this episode will be getting out. I'm recording this. It's Wednesday evening. It's now 6:00. And so I don't know if I'll get to editing it tonight, but either way, just want to let you know, sorry if it's late tomorrow. Thursdays are usually the days that I drop them, but I do like to get them out earlier if possible. But anyway, so in light of everything I just shared with you, I think I just want to share some thoughts that I have today about grief and about suffering and about feeling negative emotion. Nothing is written. I am just going off the top of my head when I was driving home in the car just a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure that you can all relate to this. One of the first things when I left the vet's office that I thought of, I left the office, I was in the parking lot and I thought, oh, I need to run over to the grocery store across the street. So let me just do that. This is one of the first episodes you've listened to. I used to use alcohol and sometimes other substances, mostly alcohol, I used it so that I could tolerate the events in my life. The second that they got uncomfortable, I would just be like, let's go have drinks, And I think that so many of us do that. It doesn't have to be problematic drinking. It is the societal way. That's what we do. It's how it's sold to us, right? So you don't necessarily have to have a problem or a drinking habit to relate to this. The reason I'm telling you this is because today I was pulling out of the parking lot and I said, I'm going to go to the store. And I had been crying and crying and crying. And so I was like, all right, I should be fine. And I was like, oh, it's been a really tough day. I should just get a bottle of wine. It was like this fleeting thought. I guess I didn't consciously think about the thought. When I was at the store, unconsciously shopping around on one of the end caps was the Sour Patch cherry bombs or whatever. And so I was like, And I picked those up and put them on my cart. And long story short is I got in the car and then I realized oh my God, yeah, I forgot to get that wine. Wait, what? It was like the weirdest thing. I was driving, I was pulling out of the parking lot and I was like, wait, why would I want to get wine? It was like this conscious, unconscious, sort of shifting in and out of awareness. I was like, well, maybe I do want the wine. And then I was like, no, I don't want the wine. I was able to be like, no, that's just an awful idea. And then I realized that I was popping these sugar-coated cherry bombs. I was popping those things like candy. And I had maybe 20 of them because they come in this big bag. And I was like, oh my gosh, look what you're doing. As I'm having this conversation with myself about the wine. And this is what the brain does. This is what all of our brains do. The reason my lower brain was telling me this is because it's still like, hey, you don't want to feel uncomfortable. Look at me over here, right? I had this hard, emotionally draining sort of really last couple weeks, but especially the last, since last weekend, it's been a tough one. I have been caring for my sick, sweet, dying cancer baby dog. And not funny. That little fucker in the back of my brain was like, yeah, let's get a bottle of wine. You deserve it. People do it with ice cream and with cookies. This is what all of our brains do as humans, is it wants to, as you guys hear me say, seek pleasure, avoid pain, be efficient. Okay. So the lower part of the brain back there was and the emotional part of the brain too was like, hey, let's drink some wine. Let's have some sugar. Let's do whatever it is to avoid your current discomfort, because that's not fun. That's energy. That sounds icky. So let's avoid that pain and let's get the pleasure. And so I know for me, when I do that, when I pick up the whatever it is, today for me, it was the cherry bombs, right? And sometimes it is cookies or chips or whatever. I'm using that food or sometimes it's getting busy in the house or whatever, and it used to be drinking. I'm using that to tolerate the current circumstances or events of my life, okay? And when we do this, we don't feel the pain that's needed in order to move out of it, right? To get to the next phase of life. Change happens when we have enough discomfort, right? What is that saying? When the pain of staying gets greater than the fear of leaving, then you'll finally end up leaving. I remember driving down a very windy road in Texas Hill Country whenever I found that quote or some version of it. Dangerous, dangerous. This was years ago. I don't do that anymore most of the time. But I remember finding that quote. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I think I'm almost there to when the pain of staying is greater. And I was like, I'm almost at it. I wasn't, but let me tell you what took me so long to get out of that relationship. I could have gotten myself out of that whole mess way before I did, 6, 7 years later, whatever it was. And I drank to tolerate the state of my life. So then I never got my ass moving and felt the pain that I was supposed to feel so that I could move out of it. Do you know what I'm saying? Hopefully I'm making sense here. So when we use any sort of behavior to make things livable, then we're not able to move to our next phase, evolve to our next version of ourselves, right? And so then you're staying in this stagnance for however long until you stop. Either you stop doing the behavior or some other catastrophic thing happens in your life that causes more pain than the behavior was numbing, dulling. So when pain comes into your life, clean pain, not the suffering that we put on top of it. But when things happen that cause you to feel any of the emotions that come with grief, when we numb it away because we think we either deserve it because it's been a hard time for us, or we tell ourselves that we can't handle the current circumstances without it, that the pain is just too great, so we need to do the thing, whatever it is. Oh, I'll stop after this however long event. My mom is sick now. My mom is not sick. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example. Or my husband's aunt is sick or something like that. I'll deal with my habit when that's done. But let me just tell you, there's never really ever a good time. And this episode is not necessarily a talk to you guys about quitting habits. That's not the point here. My point is, I think that we are brought experiences, things happen to us or for us. It's an opportunity to grow and move through it and get to the other side stronger and better and whatever it is that you're meant to be at the end of that, right? So when we reach for whatever behavior it is, sometimes it's Netflix too. It's as simple as like just binging shows just to turn off, or movies, whatever, because we enter into a different world, right? Sometimes that can be healthy, but when you're watching like 8 shows a night and then you're doing it the next night and the next night, when you notice that you're doing the behavior in order to not be present in your life, this is what I'm talking about, okay? And so when we ignore that and just tolerate, then we miss out on life. Even if it's the uncomfortable, icky, you think inconvenient emotions, right? Still, that's just part of life. So when you're concentrated on trying to get out of the discomfort, then first, it's exhausting because even in the subconscious, you're having to be like, no, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. So you're doing all this planning around the habit, or how can we get around this? That's on low grade playing in the background of your mind. And then on top of that, you have this other pain around whatever habit that you're doing, because maybe if it's drinking, then you have the hangover, or you're spending the money, or you're doing whatever, right? If it's eating, maybe we're on a weight loss plan and now you screwed that up. And so there's like this emotional hangover about it afterwards. So you have emotional hangover from the grief, and then you have an emotional hangover from the eating that you did. And it's double, triple, quadruple the pain. Do you know what I'm saying? You've got clean pain. One is whatever emotions are with the grief. And then when you're trying to lose weight, let's just say, you have this other kind of pain because you're having to learn how to allow urges. And so that's uncomfortable, right? And because you're avoiding both of these things in order to circumvent the emotions, then you have emotional hangover, maybe possibly even chemical hangover. Right? So there's all of this pain that we add on top of it, which is so stupid, but we all do it. So I'm not calling you stupid. It's just so silly. So I just wanted to say that if and when, and I know I'm being lighthearted about this when we're talking about the grief of your own child and the loss. Still, though, all of this applies. When we avoid emotions, we're creating more pain for ourselves, right? Like I said, it is such a normal thing. Your brain is super healthy and thriving if it is a habit for you to reach for something, okay? It is normal. It is human behavior to do that, okay? But when you notice yourself with grief and with any sort of uncomfortable emotion that you might be having, when you are reaching for something to tolerate it, I just want to lovingly first just let you know that I know that you are more than capable and equipped to feel and handle the emotions as themselves. Also, I want to save you the trouble, because when you do that, you end up feeling the pain at some point anyway, either more because other things have to happen for you to be like, oh, I'm supposed to learn this in order to move to the next version of myself. Or it's for longer because you keep pushing it away, right? So it's an opportunity, the discomfort, anytime you have an uncomfortable emotion come up or an event that happens in your life, you get fired, God forbid. That's a lot of uncomfortability all of a sudden that comes up. When you earn the trust with yourself and show yourself that you actually can feel the emotion without having to use something to tolerate it, you feel like you have superpowers. It's such an amazing feeling, and it does wonders for your self-worth and for your, like I said, the self-trust and your belief in yourself, your ability to show up for the world, and then also really truly for yourself, because we usually show up for ourselves last. If you're anything like me, then you will take care of everybody out there. You're an amazing service person. You will serve anybody out there, and you will show up on time for your meetings. Maybe you're late. I'm ADHD and sometimes I'm late, but you always do everything for everybody else. And then you put yourself on the back burner, right? So when you do stuff like this for yourself and be like, no, I'm just going to go ahead and feel this emotion. Okay, so it's a little uncomfortable. What's the worst that can happen? I can feel some discomfort, right? And I can regulate my thoughts as opposed to letting them go nuts. I tell you, watch yourself next time. If you use a habit to tolerate your life, listen to the chatter that's going on in the back of your brain, okay? Because what'll happen is a shame cycle, either right after you make the decision to do it or like afterwards. Oh, why did I do that? And so the reason why I say all this to you is because I want to inspire you and to help you along the way to not feel the suffering, right? I want you to move through the suffering and into a constant state of evolving. Okay. So that's why I say that. I don't say this for, oh, you need to stop doing this, or you do whatever you want. Please do whatever you want. I just know too that how much pain that you and I have gone through. And I want you to not. If you don't want to, I don't want you to. Let's just say that. Okay. And also, your brain is like a filing cabinet. When you desire whatever behavior you have, Netflix, candy, cookies, drinking, whatever it is, when you have the feeling of desire, it's going to go back to the thing that last supplied it the dopamine hit. Let's just pick Netflix. It knows that you can get a little dopamine hit if you go and watch that one guilty pleasure show, right? And you can check out from the current state of your life that you're just tolerating. Okay. But what you're also doing by making your life tolerable is that feeling of desire could be for the things that you really deep down want to do, right? You could be using that emotion to start to fulfill your deepest desires. But because you're currently using the Netflix, the surface stuff, you're numbing the deeper desires. So much so that sometimes you don't even know what those desires are anymore. And that's what I wanted to say, is that not only are you numbing the current state of your life, but you're also numbing the deep desires. So then you have to unpack all that to get to find what it is that you truly desire. Does that make sense? So if you feel like you just don't know what your purpose is, like everybody knows what they want to do, how come I don't? Listen, I was there. You guys have heard me. I've read book after book after book about purpose. And I was like, I just don't know. Well, here's why. One of the reasons why is because my brain was so used to not having to think or access the deeper desires. So I could never resource my own desire because my brain was so used to going to the surface desire. The one that's not anywhere near as deep as my true desires. This is just the sugar gum or like the fast food quality sort of desires. It doesn't last. You know how when you have some sort of fast food, you're not full for very long. You're full for maybe like an hour and then you need more. It's the same with this. These aren't your true desires. You have that urge, that craving, that desire for something. And then you're so used to fulfilling it with easy access and instant gratification sort of thing. So then each time you do that, it's like adds another layer on to where your true desires are. So when you take away the buffer, then you're able to start accessing your deeper and truest desires. So if you want to feel more purposeful in your life and you want to feel like you know where you're headed and what you're doing, my probably number one thing that I would say to do is if you're currently using something to tolerate your life, then maybe becoming aware and removing that from your life. And then you will find the clarity, I promise. So we're supposed to have the heartbreak and the discomfort of loss and grief and anger. We need these negative emotions to move us through. Okay. And when we get good at feeling the negative emotions, then none of them are a problem. So yeah. So maybe it's not about avoiding the uncomfortable. When you accept love into your life, whether it comes in the form of a puppy or a child or, your favorite flower, whatever it is, when you accept that into your life, you also know that there's a chance of loss too. That is what we signed up for. When we decided to have babies and when we decided to be pet owners, pet parents, whatever, we're going to have pain. We're going to have pain. And the sooner that we allow those emotions to be, the sooner that we stop suffering and we're able to get to the heart of living. Okay. So if you want to feel closer to your child, and you want to feel secure in your relationship with your child or with anybody, really, maybe you second guess yourself. You have a lot of self-doubt. This program helps you to get out of that pain and that suffering. We work on the parts of your mind that tell you that you're not enough, that tell you that your kid hates you and that there's no way you'll be able to accomplish the goal and there's no way that you'll be able to ever love or even like life again. We work on those parts of your brain. And so you very quickly within the first couple of weeks start to see the light. You learn how to take your power back in your life. You start seeing things from a bigger picture view. You're more productive. You're at peace with yourself. You'll find motivation and excitement for your life. You'll start waking up. A couple of my members have said, I'm actually excited to go do life. I'm actually excited to plan this event and do things. So if you are feeling like you've lost your oomph to life, and maybe you want to write a book, right? Maybe you want to do public speaking. Maybe you want to just be able to feel good around the people that you hang out with. And right now you feel reserved, insecure, and self-conscious because of the things that have happened in recent and not so recent past. So many of us as alienated parents, all of the change in our lives, for many of us anyway, the change that has occurred in our life has usually been at the hand of somebody else. Right? It was chosen for us and not in a good way. And so in this program, you begin to take the reins of your own life. And so if you are in pain right now and you want to stop being in pain and you want to be more productive and you want to feel excited about life, join this program. You won't regret it. I promise. Promise. And if you do, you can always cancel. Okay. So that is all I have for you guys today. Okay. So all of the more recent episodes, I think since last 10 or 11 episodes are video episodes. And so if you want to see the video, you can either go to YouTube where I have them posted, or you can go to Spotify, and I'll put the Spotify link in the show notes. I have it there for the last few episodes anyway. So you can always go there and watch the video if you so please. And the reason why I was saying that is because I will put a couple cute little pictures, videos of my sweet pepper girl there, just in memory of my sweet peeper pepper. That was way longer than I ever thought that I was going to do for today. Honestly, right now, I feel so much better. I thought that I was going to be miserable during this. I wasn't sure if I was going to be crying on this episode. I didn't know what was going to happen because I was just a hot mess right before I turned the mic on. I made it through, y'all. Thank you. But anyway, you guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for spending your time with me today. And I will see you next week. Love you guys. Thanks so much for listening today, guys. I'm honored that you chose to share your time with me. If you like what you've been hearing and you want more, come join me in the new monthly membership, where we take the concepts that you hear about here and using a logical framework, you learn to apply them to your specific situations, upgrading your thoughts and your life, even while experiencing the grief of alienation. For more information, go to beyondthehighroad.com. See you soon.